You're standing on a job site, a backyard, or a construction trailer, and the question that keeps nagging at you is simple. Do I really need to spend a few $100 on a rotary laser, or am I just throwing money at a gadget I'll never use, right? I get it, laser levels can be a gamble. One wrong purchase, and you're left with a heavy case that gathers dust while you're still trying to figure out how to get a straight line on a slab. That's why I wanted to dig into the Leica Rugby 640 rotary laser level before I hit record. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's set the scene. A rotary laser like the Rugby 640 is meant to spin a beam 360 degrees around a point, projecting a level reference that you can see from any angle. In theory, that sounds perfect for laying foundations, grading a driveway, or even hanging a row of picture frames on a large wall. The real question is whether the Rugby 640 lives up to that promise when you're actually out there with a tripod, a grade rod, and a deadline. Who should consider the Rugby 640? If you're a professional contractor who needs to set multiple grades in a day, think grading a road, establishing a floodplain reference, or installing a series of concrete pads. Their ability to have a continuous, self-leveling reference line is a real time saver. The Rugby 640's self-leveling range of 4 degrees means you can set it up on uneven ground and still trust the beam to stay true without constant manual adjustments. That translates to fewer trips back to the base, fewer errors, and ultimately less rework on the job site. It also makes sense for serious DIYers who tackle big projects like a new patio, a garden retaining wall, or a home addition. If you've ever tried to level a large concrete slab with a line level and a string, you know how tedious and error-prone that can be. A rotary laser eliminates the need to string multiple lines across the area. You just point the laser, turn it on, and you have a visible reference everywhere within its range. Now, who should walk away? If you're only ever hanging a few shelves, aligning a couple of doors, or doing small interior trim work, a basic line laser or even a traditional spirit level will do the job for a fraction of the price. The Rugby 640's 640-foot range and self-leveling mechanism are overkill for a one-room remodel. In that scenario, you'd be paying for range and features you'll never use, and the extra weight of the unit could become a nuisance in a cramped closet. Let's talk about the practical strengths that actually matter once you've unpacked the box. The first thing I noticed during my hand-sun test was the speed of the self-leveling process. You set the laser on a tripod, press the power button, and within a few seconds the internal pendulum finds the true level. On a slightly sloped driveway, it took under 10 seconds to lock in, and the beam stayed rock steady even as I nudged the tripod a bit. That quick settle time is a real advantage when you're moving from one location to the next and can't afford to wait for the laser to find its plane. Another strength is the visibility of the beam. The Rugby 640 uses a green laser, which is easier for the human eye to pick up than the more common red lasers, especially in bright daylight. I tested it on a sunny afternoon, aiming the beam at a distant grade rod about 500 feet away. The line was still discernible through a pair of standard safety glasses, which is crucial when you're trying to verify elevation differences across a large site. The green beam also held up well through light fog and dust, which are common on construction sites. Battery life is another point that often trips up users. The Rugby 640 runs on a rechargeable lithium-ion pack, and Leica claims up to 30 hours of continuous operation. In my field test, after a full charge I ran the laser for roughly 22 hours while checking multiple grades and moving the unit around a 2-acre plot. The battery indicator was clear, and swapping the pack for a spare was straightforward. No fiddly connectors or proprietary chargers that lock you into a single brand. Now, let's balance those positives with the practical weaknesses that show up once the excitement of the first turn fades. The most noticeable trade-off is weight. At just under 12 pounds, the Rugby 640 is heavier than many entry-level rotary lasers, which can make it a bit cumbersome to carry up ladders or over rough terrain. If you're the sole person moving the equipment, you'll feel that heft, especially when you have to set up on uneven ground and need to adjust the tripod frequently. The control interface, while functional, is a bit minimalist. There's a single rotary knob for setting the pitch and a few push buttons for mode selection. There's no backlit display, so checking settings in low light requires you to turn on the laser and watch the indicator LEDs. 4.